once. Is it clean? No. It's been used. Yeah. There's space here in front.
Want a piece? You want a piece?
After. The pizza. Yeah. I hope it don't be called corruption when commissions are set up. You never know.
It will be so hot. It's the right temperature.
Okay. I think we should start. It's it's just after 1:45. And good evening again. And yes, it's really been a privilege to have this kind of class, which is unusual here, because these days I'm teaching my children. Yeah. And they call me Tata. Yes, yeah. It's strange because when I came here and I was young and what, and then all of a sudden, students call me Tata. And okay. Now, what do we do to solve the problems of this country? And one can only be imaginative and be a visionary and be optimistic to stay alive. And I think it's possible to do all of this, living in this world, not in an ideal world. And that's what I'm trying to do. And my proposals, of course, are based on what I have been talking about this week. My own understanding, how I conceptualize the problem of land in South Africa and conceptualize land as the key issue that now lies at the heart of the success of our democracy. You resolve the land question, you resolve 60-70% of our problems. That's my view. Just to recap a bit, I say that the ANC-led government tried to resolve the land question in South Africa by monetary compensation to beneficiaries, as the restitution program suggests. Because that's what they had done with restitution, monetary compensation, and not giving people the land back. So if you look at the percentage of land given, there's very little difference. And people now get money, and within a year it's gone. Secondly, they've made peaceful transfers of poor quality land to groups of people that were poorly organized, if at all, as we said yesterday. So I know a resource that could have been used profitably or productively has been wasted. They've also tried, coming to land tenure of farm workers. All the state did in this period was to introduce the Land Tenure Security Act. And that act has been used very successfully by farmers to evict farm workers off the farm. They have upgraded slums in urban areas as the ones we talked about yesterday. But the point here I'm trying to make is that all these have been done piecemeal. There doesn't seem to have been a coordinated strategy on the part of government. One of the challenges that any democratic regime faces in South Africa is how to merge commercial farms with the reserves. Because at the moment we have a dual system, or some kind of dualism, where you have commercial agriculture for whites mainly, and subsistence farming for blacks, mainly Africans. But if we are serious about making a nation, a South African nation, we cannot afford those dualisms. If you stick to them, then you perpetuate apartheid rather than getting rid of it. So at the level of vision, I think it's important for us to think about a South African nation. And one way in which one can do that is to try and look at the land question, to resolve the land question, and you can do that by creating this unitary system in terms of land holding. The starting point, as far as I'm concerned, the starting point would be a focus on the former reserves. Why the former reserves? I argue the former reserves because it is these reserves that were used by the segregationist government of the 19th, 20th century and the apartheid government to divide the oppressed, creating these tribes, these Bandustans, and so on. It was a rule, was a divide and rule strategy. So if you want to create a unitary state, then you must do away with divide and rule. And doing away with divide and rule means dismantle these Bandustans, right? The challenge, of course, is how do you do this? A concern that is often raised whenever we raise these issues or we talk about these issues is that agriculture will be affected, particularly agricultural production. That the minute you start messing up, that's how people know, some people would put it, messing up with the current structure of things, especially commercial agriculture, then there will be a disruption. Of course, we have an example of a neighbor in the form of Zimbabwe. And these days, over the last 10, 15 years, or close to 20 years now, since 1998, Zimbabwe has been used as this, what do you call it? Almost a threat. Yeah. And a scarecrow, that's the term I want, as a scarecrow, that don't touch this. And it is for this reason, I think there is an element of truth in that, especially when you start meddling with production, with land that is in full production. So my proposal, given these circumstances, is that we should do research and look at the state of agriculture in South Africa. I'm saying this because the little research I've done about the state of agriculture in South Africa, I found that there is a lot or a significant amount of productive land that is either unused or underutilized. I introduced these concepts in the course of the lectures. Right. There's also land that could be developed that is in debt. So the first proposal I make is that research should be done to establish the extent of that land. Because what I have done in my work is that as I do the case studies, these various cases, I come across these instances. But one needs a survey, something like a survey, that will give us a good idea of how much land we're talking about. So that would be the first proposal. And of course, what it would mean is that it's an accusation that has been made that I leave out productive land, which is where money is. And some people argue that the land that is unused, underutilized in debt is probably, because they haven't done the research, that is probably land that is not fertile, right? Which might be true, but my point is that until such time that the research has been done, we cannot sort of say this proposal shouldn't be tested. Under loans, they can no longer run their business. Sometimes it's not even loans. It's inability to run business. It's like having a shop. Might not have a bond on the shop, but if you run it badly, then the income becomes less than the expenditure, and if that happens consistently, then you're declared insolvent. You see. And you can Google, you can almost on a daily basis, there is land, that, and some of the land, of course, it would fall under the category of unused land. Some people simply abandon their farms and or leave their farms to black managers, sort of workers of yesterday. They just leave them and get a job in the town, right? So it's a resource that's not used adequately, optimally, and so on. And that's what I say should be targeted. All right? The question that will come up is who should benefit from this land? Land that's used, unused, underutilized, and so on. I take it with this proposal that of expropriation without compensation. I would say that that's the land that must be expropriated, possibly without compensation, right? And but the bigger question, the tougher question is who benefits from the land. I go back to my three categories, and in my mind, I think that as a planner, if I was a government planner and so on, I would put high on the list the communal areas, the former reserves. How do you dismantle these reserves? How do you ensure that the problem that is forcing people to come to cities of landlessness and so on is resolved? How can you begin to resolve those problems of landlessness, given the fact that you'll have this amount of land that has been expropriated? Then I say, let's go to the rural areas of former reserve, and of course, you would have to do research there and find out the composition of people who live in these areas. They are not a homogeneous group. Once again, I can't generalize, but all the case studies that I have done, I found that in each of these areas, there are all sorts of differentiations. There are those who have land in the form of fields. There are small gardens. Some have fields, small gardens, cattle, livestock generally. Others have fewer cattle, maybe about 4 or 5. But no, they can milk their cows and so on, so they get something out of this. Some have nothing. Some have nothing, they don't have even a dog. Right? And I know in meetings, there's no call it imbizo, and so on. A person, a man who does not have cattle and so on is not allowed to talk. Yes. You raise your voice and so on, and especially now after a few sort of drinks and so on, and then you rise up and say, no, we can't listen to you. You don't even have a dog. So what I'm saying here is that there are people in those rural areas, some very serious now, committed to farming, but are frustrated by the fact that they don't have enough land. So no, my proposal is that target those people, right? Target them and give them more land. We have 20 cattle, you want to grow your stock, but you don't have now. Here's a piece now for now, 100 hectares. We'll make this now available to you, right? And the logic of that, of course the condition was that if you get land elsewhere, you abandon the land that you have, right? Otherwise, people will just accumulate land, and won't be solving the land question. But if people leave these areas for bigger land elsewhere in what was commercial, what it means is that there will be decongestion in these rural areas. And decongestion will create opportunities, especially for the small land, small-scale farmer, a person who has 5, 10 cattle or sheep and so on. It will create opportunities for them to grow their stock because no more land will be released and there will be more grazing land and so on. And so some people leave the reserves. Those who remain pursue land-based livelihood, but on a smaller scale. Right? But there's a growing number of people in these rural areas that, who are displaced in those areas. They shouldn't belong to the rural areas. They're not interested in land, especially younger people. Right? They're not interested in land. You can give them a piece of land, no, they won't use the land. And the question is, what do you do with those people? Right? In my thinking, I'm of the view that if people were to see prospects of something better, their consciousness might change and their attitude to things might even change. They won't be the same people that they were when they were living under those conditions of crowded conditions and so on. Conditions turn people into animals. We all know that. Right? The other thing that in my imagination I think of is agriculture is not just about burning yourself out in the sun and so on. There are all sorts of things that we can do with agricultural products. We can have processing in areas. And there will be need for farm management. There will be need for marketing. And all those will create opportunities for younger people to be involved in agrarian transformation. So it's not just producing, it's also getting the seeds. It's marketing your stock. And younger people should be excited to be involved in such things. We focus on the former homelands. And the question would be, what about farm workers? Right. I've argued here that it is important to have this bigger picture. On farms, we have found that the two main problems. One is tenure insecurity, and the other one are labor conditions, if you remember from the last day or so. And as far as land tenure insecurity is concerned, farm workers would be treated in pretty much the same way as those in the former reserves are treated. They'll be integrated into this agrarian sort of structure. And integrating them into this agrarian structure means that you will begin to merge sort of these activities rather than having two different type of activities that could be given a racial tag. Right? So that's what you do with farm workers. And there's a question of farm workers, and in this case, farm workers will be farm owners. They will be entrepreneurs. They don't have to be farm workers all the time, right? They'll be entrepreneurs, but those who work are not owners, are not entrepreneurs and so on, but are involved in farming as workers would have to look at the labor conditions. Sadly, we can't continue with labor conditions as they exist on farms today. Right. This brings us to the third category of urban land. What happens to urban areas? And I've argued that the link between the urban and the rural must always be kept in mind. The problems we dealt with in urban areas emanated as a result of people leaving the reserves because of hunger, because of lack of job opportunities and so on. They come to urban areas where they know that there are no guaranteed jobs. Right? But if you have a stable agrarian structure, agrarian transformation, right, then chances of those people leaving rural areas in numbers will be eliminated. They will have reason to stay behind. I don't say they will be extinguished. People will always people should have choices. We must always have choice either to go to urban areas and rural areas. But in this case, if there's a possibility that one can make a living in rural areas, but is not restricted from going to cities, then I'm sure, and I know from my experience doing research in Brazil, for example, that there had been instances of people who would leave the cities, go back to rural areas because they found that rural areas were much better than the cities. So there's nothing stopping me from imagining that we might have such a situation in South Africa. And if we were to have such a situation, it would mean that we have, in some ways, a strategy of dealing with the crisis of housing that, we experience in the urban areas. But at the same time, it would mean that we, by stabilizing the rural areas, we are creating options for people who cannot find permanent jobs in urban areas to go back to rural areas and make a livelihood. And I've seen this happening, especially to people who are like your middle-aged people. Young people will want to go to the cities, but the minute you have a family, you want stability, urban life becomes something. And people almost voluntarily, even now, go back to the countryside They work, they amass what they think is sufficient, no money, and then they retire in those areas. But then they retire in their 40s when they have had enough money to buy cattle and so on. But under much improved conditions, I think that a pattern could be detected of people not going back there. Going back to rural areas. That in a way is my vision of how the land question could be addressed in South Africa, but also addressed in such a way that it brings stability that might stabilize even our democracy. Let me stop there. Oh, wow. 1, 2, 3.
Prof, right in the beginning, you were drawing distinction between freehold and land tenure.
Yes.
Now, tonight you suggested that to relieve the congestion in the reserves, you would select the productive people there and give them land which is unused in the agricultural area. Would you give them freehold rights on that land? You would?
I would. I would.
Give it
For security.
Yes?
Yes.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Would you give it to them, or would you expect them to pay for it?
Right.
I would give it to them with the hope that they will rent, they will pay. I want to expect them not to buy, because if you say they must buy land, then you assume that they have money.
Exactly.
And you are talking about people who don't have money, but you don't want to give them land as a gift. You give them land, say, these are the conditions. That's why, even from day one, I said that for me, what is important is land use rather than land right. If you buy something with land, you keep it and you don't use it, then you would have issues. Though. If you give people, they have land, they can say, this is my land, so what? And but if sort of your right to land is based on how you use it, right? Then you can put terms to the land that is given to that. Look, you are given this land, and you will be allowed to use the land for as long as you use it productively.
Who will own that land?
Well, it could be owned, by a group. In my work, if you're thinking about issues of monopoly and so on, I propose co-ops. That people should be organized in co-ops rather than individuals. Because if it's individuals, land is finite. You will sooner end up with landlessness. And of course, co-ops, I not mean co-ops as they are organized now, where you have a co-op today and you think it's going to work well tomorrow. It will be co-ops that will be given enough support, the kind of support that companies in the capitalist world were given support, and today companies run as if it's natural not to run companies the way they do. Right? So if it's co-ops, I don't have any problems in saying that the land that's been allocated must be registered in the name of that co-op. Right? Which would mean that it is co-ops, not the state. I'm reluctant to say the state, especially now, given what the state has shown or is showing us. The more you hear things, there's this commission now, and then you say, look, oh man, one thing, of course, this commission shows us that this country is very rich. It's very rich now, but we are abusing the way we distribute our wealth. But so the state, I would be reluctant. I know the EFF doesn't like me because there are 4 sort of state ownership. But at this point in time, I would be happier if land is held by these co-ops. In traditional societies, just to make this point, this 1, 2, 3, 4, okay, just to make in traditional societies, land was not, in fact, there was not, the concept of ownership didn't apply. It was usufruct rights, use rights. And the land was controlled by what we now call the clan, right? And if, as a boy, I become a man, I want to marry, and I want a piece of land, I don't go to a magistrate. I don't go to a chief. I don't go to a king. The family decides. The father calls the clan and say, no, look, my son has come of age, wants to be independent. I want to give him that portion of land. And there is agreement, and the process is done and dusted. So ownership could be individual, but not state. Not unless there could be a state that could be accountable to people, or a state that we would have powers to control. But at the moment, it looks as if the state is all powerful. We see these. You complain. Look at people in Zimbabwe. They complain. What else can they do? But the army just moves in. Okay.
You started your lecture by talking about a unitary system. I'm not quite sure what you meant by that, and if you could elaborate on that.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, in the modern world, to be competitive in the farming environment requires, particularly with regard to management and the technicalities of farming, requires training. And without that, any change of the land situation will become unproductive and uneconomical. How is that to be dealt with? And thirdly, you said in the brochure that the impact of land expropriation without compensation, you were going to deal with that and its effect on the economy. You might like to elaborate a bit on that. How is that going to affect the economy in your opinion?
Well, precisely what I'm saying, that if you target unused land or underutilized land, it will affect, that will affect the economy, but positively. It will affect the economy positively if you produce on land that was lying fallow or on land that was underused. So that's the connection I'm making. And the issue of support, I just took it for granted because I've been saying it, that blacks didn't succeed in agriculture because they were not given state support. And so in order for this to work, the state, that's why I said if I was in government, this is a government project, right? Then I would make this a priority. And making it a priority means that you resource what you believe in.
The European press is full of blacks are going to take over white land. And that's, given the Zimbabwe situation, and from the point of view of further investment in the economy, that's a no-no for any investor. Compensation.
Well, it's not only Europe. Trump believes in that. And we're doing research and we're coming up with these proposals precisely because we think that we're dealing with human beings and human beings can listen and consider arguments. If we don't want to talk to each other, then it's not going to happen. There's going to be war and so on. But if there is preparedness to listen, people make claims, we challenge them. A claim that Europe is superior than Africa and so on, we challenge it today. And I think we are making progress, right? And, an argument that if you have one thing and the other one, the best solution is possibly a merger of what's good from what you're bringing from one end and what others now bringing to the table. That's what negotiation is about. That's what I'm understanding. I mean, I understand negotiation to be about. That you get into a situation with an open mind. That if the weight of the argument is convincing, you'll consider it. But if you go there without that, then there's trouble.
Sorry, could you have this?
I think we'll come back to you.
We'll come to the
Yeah, okay. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But still, there are inputs involved. Farming is farming. But where are the extension agents, for instance? Where are the agricultural colleges to produce this? Where's the agricultural technology and other inputs, financial?
Mm-hmm.
How is that factored into this equation? I'm not hearing about it.
Well, I mean, I talk about subsidies, state support, and so on. But I mean, one would have to unpack that. What does that mean, right? The other day, I talked about Stellenbosch and what they do there, the technology that's developed there, a cow, producing milk every 3 hours and so on. That's what I read and so on. And this is not utopia that I'm presenting. I'm presenting a case for South Africa. So the starting point would be to explore the resources we have. We have universities that offer good courses in agriculture. There are colleges that are devoted to agricultural development and so on. That would be the starting point. What do they do? What is their capacity? What do we need? Because it doesn't help for them to do things that are done in Europe when our needs are different. Would have to ground sort of whatever universities are doing. The education has to be relevant. It has to be relevant to the specific conditions of South Africa, Southern Africa, because of the migratory labor system, right? But all those things, not things that are hidden around corner. This will need research. This will need research. You see.
There's a model that in principle is in place in the urban areas in the Cape, around Cape Town, where houses are being built to replace shacks, where and to replace hostels, flats being built. And apparently, if you pay your rent for 6 to 8 years, you can then take ownership and you'll get freehold title.
Mm-hmm.
And my thinking is maybe this kind of model where you expect to put an input of your own money for a number of years can be transferred to new plots, new farms in the rural areas.
Mm-hmm.
And before you say this is exploitation, the people are paying for a one-bedroom flat 200 to 250 rand a month. They've got a living room combined with a kitchen and a proper bathroom. And for a two-bedroom flat, rents can go up to 300, maybe 350 rand. In other words, the city, who's the one who's doing the building, is not exploiting these people.
Mm-hmm.
It is not in my book. For someone who's earning 900 rand a month, obviously, it's a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
But
course. I mean, we won't have a one-size-fits-all solution. And, I mean,
One could even do that with cooperatives.
yes, yes,
Everyone
yes,
puts in a certain amount of money.
yes,
and they pay
yes,
the rent.
yes. And I mean, burial societies, in rural areas amongst poor people, they work like magic. So it's not something like you exporting or importing a model now. I mean, you start where people are. If I were to work with people, I would start and say, no, look, how is it possible for you to sustain this society? And I know of burial societies that have been in existence for years. And some are so organized that they have their own flags. They they have their own insurance, and they guarantee certain packages to members. You start there. It's something that is there. And then develop people from where they are. What's happening with land reform is that the state goes to people who are producing their way, and then they introduce a model that has been successful in Ireland, just as an example. And that just confuses people. And then after 3 years, they say, this land is not productive. You see? And yet, if you were to work with people, people have used land. They've got ideas. They know the landscape, right? Use that knowledge and build on it. Even though when you talk about curriculum reform at universities, this is what it means. That curriculum is not good curriculum because it's what is taught in America, what is taught in Oxford, and so on, right? What is taught there, is of course important because of globalization, but that shouldn't be the starting point. The starting point, is how to link that and its relevance here. And if it's not relevance, I'm sorry, just put it aside. It's not serving your purpose. That's what theory is about. That's what curriculum should be about.
When it comes to training new black farmers, surely our best resource is the current farmers who tend to belong to Agri South Africa. Now, when all those commissions for land reform without expropriation without compensation,
yes,
they went to all of them to say, we don't believe in that, but we do believe in land reform. Now, I haven't ever heard anything what they believe, how they would come to the party, so to speak, and train. They've been farming for all these years.
yes,
They, I'm sure, would be happy to give knowledge, to give part of land, to help with the training of black farmers, because they want South Africa to succeed. They're not all going to immigrate to England if things don't succeed. So they've got an investment in this country. They've got the skills, the know-how, and the will for it to succeed. And could they not be used as a really good pool?
yes. Oh, yeah, I agree with you. But you would have to identify those who are committed to transformation. Because we have what is called, you can Google it, or maybe some of you know it. There's something called farm equity schemes. Farm equity schemes is like a partnership between a white farmer and workers, where workers are given a shareholding up to 49%, and the farmer would own 51%. You can know there are a couple of theses that have been written on these schemes. I haven't come across a single model that has worked. Yes, no, not one. What we hear is that the farmers, right, get money from the state for 9%, but they continued treating farm workers the way they were treating them before. Farm workers never feel that they are owners of the land, that they can be trained to manage the land, right? And where farm worker complains, and I've done some of the research myself on farms, game farms or in Port Elizabeth, right? Where farm workers complain, they expel them. Yes. And they somehow manage to smuggle in the agreement something that says that a person who will benefit from this scheme is an employed worker. Which means that the minute you are dismissed from work, you lose your equity rights.
Solms Delta, was that was
Where is it today? Where is it? It's a disaster.
That's the context we
Yeah. It's a disaster. It's a disaster. So I mean, some of these things sound good. I mean, in theory, say, look, this sounds good. But also, I mean, the model that is used, there's an assumption that the person who knows everything is the farmer. But the reality is, and I've done this, and I've stayed with farm workers, right? The reality is that the people who know are these farm workers. They will tell you when no sheep must be vaccinated, when such and such has to happen. The farmer often, I mean, without those farm workers, would be nothing. They are knowledgeable. They know their stuff, but they don't know where the seeds are bought from, and they don't know where the produce is sold. But the production, Jesus, I know they are amazing, those that I've come across.
Assuming that all of this will work and that there's good development of skills and there's training possibilities and mentorships and we get all these fantastic, beautiful new farms. You said yesterday, the day before, that there are at the moment about 50,000 commercial farmers in the country. And let's assume that in a couple of years we have now 100,000 commercial farmers. Fantastic. But I still think that there are millions within the electorate of the EFF and the ANC that at the moment all think that they will become a sort of mini farmer or at least get some compensation. So are we not replacing one time bomb with another one? Because could we ever compensate everybody?
Well, when I started, you need time not to sort of to develop your case, than 20 minutes, 30 minutes or so. But when I said that this should be a program of government, not something that happens, this happening in isolation of the other, right? It means that it's something that will have to be monitored. These days, each and every department will have a monitoring and evaluation department. Sound words, slogans, and so on. But you go there, there's hardly any monitoring, let alone evaluation. And then when they evaluate anything, they bring an expert who has no clue of what's happening on the ground. But they have a template that they have used all over the place. And they just changed names. If it's Tanzania, it will be Tanzania. When they come to South Africa, they remove Tanzania and put South Africa and make cosmetic changes and so on. And we say, because they come from overseas, they are experts and so on. We give them millions and nothing happens. So what I'm saying is that this, for it to work, it would have to be a tightly managed program. Right? And research would have to be an essential part of that. Not consultancy. Not the kind of work, I've sort of been asked by government people to do very complicated things, and they say, I have 2 weeks. And I say, go away. I'm not going to do that. This, give me 2 years, then I'll give you something worthwhile. And what we hear now in terms of corruption and so on doesn't surprise me where we are. There was no commitment to transforming society. There was commitment in lining a few people's pockets. But that's not what I'm proposing. And maybe whether human beings have the ability to do what I'm suggesting, I don't know. Some people say that no, human beings will never be like that. I'm not that pessimistic.
The underutilization of research, that you see research as being key to this whole project.
Yes.
And my question is, why has research been missing? I know, like Jabalinda Gully says, it was always white researchers who were telling us who we were, that there's not really been a culture of research.
Yes.
So, can you talk more about that?
Well, I can talk about my own experience. I mean, I think research of the kind that I'm doing, which tries to be as honest as possible, will never be liked by people who are into corruption, because the research will reveal what they are doing, and some of what they are doing they don't want to be known. And I know it in my case. I mean on this state land and so on. I've been asking question how much land has been bought since 2006 when we had this proactive strategy of acquiring land and so on. No one is giving me the figures. Because I asked that question and said, what has happened to the land? and it's something that is researchable. It's going to take me time, but I'll find out. And already we're beginning to get hints that so-and-so, a big name, has got a farm there. That's part of it. That's what they are doing. Oh, okay. Oh, yeah.
I'm just trying to ask you, I'm trying to put all this together and I'm trying to understand your vision. One of the things I heard you say earlier today was about dismantling the Bantustan. Would I be correct in interpreting that as dismantling the former reserves, communal areas, making a unitary system with the current white-owned, mainly white-owned commercial farming and the reserves that gets regarded as one system within South Africa? So we have urban and rural, but rural is not differentiated into reserve and commercial. And you start creating opportunities across the board in those areas. You talk about stabilizing the sector.
Yes.
So, I'm sort of asking then, if one's talking about dismantling the Bantustan, what happens to the traditional leadership and that kind of a thing in that scenario? And another comment really is just we're dealing with a situation of rapid population growth, especially of young people. You've also mentioned that young people aren't all that, they may not be as interested in active farming as their predecessors. You also look at this balancing. Some people are going to come back because you're going to decongest the reserves, or the agricultural land people return, others will go to the urban. I don't know, I'm just trying to put it all together. Maybe you could start by saying, you should start with the former reserves.
Yes.
And what is your vision then? Do you get rid of traditional leadership? Do you phase it out? How do you then establish a unitary system when it's so contrasting at the moment? And I mean, you made the comment that it was created in the first place in order to divide it. So it can be uncreated, theoretically.
Yes.
But now, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I think it was first day, when I was saying that these are state-appointed officials. They are not traditional leaders.
Well, they're called that.
That's what they are called. I mean, a name is a name. I might call myself a billionaire, but if I don't, but they.
Traditional leaders, then they call it.
Yes. I mean, if you have time or interested, you must read my book, Democracy Compromised: Chiefs and the Politics of Land in South Africa. It was published by Brill in the Netherlands, in Leiden, and 2004. But it's an evergreen, it's used today. And I deal now with the issue of traditional leadership in a democracy. And they know I'm very, very clear.